The year was 1893. Chicago buzzed with the excitement of the World's Columbian Exposition, a marvel of innovation and grandeur. But while the city showcased humanity's greatest achievements, a far darker story was unfolding in its shadows. Behind the charming smile of a man named Herman Webster Mudgett, better known as H. Holmes, lurked unspeakable evil. His grand creation, the so-called Murder Castle, would earn him the title of America's first documented serial killer. This is the chilling tale of a man who turned ambition into terror and progress into nightmares. Born on May 16, 1861, in the quiet New England town of Gilmanton, New Hampshire, young Herman Webster Mudgett grew up surrounded by strict religious values and the heavy hand of discipline. But behind his quiet demeanor lay a boy who was different, a boy who viewed life and death with a chilling detachment. Stories from his childhood speak of a fascination with dissection, a talent for deceit, and an unsettling lack of empathy. While the other children dreamed of futures filled with joy and hope, young Herman's path was already veering toward darkness. Whether shaped by his environment or an innate malevolence, one thing was clear. Holmes's charm and intelligence masked a mind destined for something sinister. As a young man, Holmes showed a remarkable ability to reinvent himself. Leaving behind his rural roots, he attended the University of Michigan's medical school, where he learned more than anatomy. He discovered how to manipulate the living and the dead for personal gain. Using cadavers from the school, Holmes perfected insurance scams, faking deaths to collect payouts. His schemes were calculated, his lies convincing. Every fraudulent act was a rehearsal for the horrors he would later unleash. With his charm and intellect, Holmes easily won the trust of those around him. But his true talent was erasing the lines between ambition, deception, and destruction. In 1887, Holmes arrived in Chicago, a city growing as fast as his ambitions. At the corner of 63rd and Wallace, he began constructing what would later be called the Murder Castle. On the surface, it appeared to be a modest, three-story building with retail spaces and lodging for visitors to the upcoming World's Fair. But this was no ordinary hotel. Holmes personally oversaw the construction, frequently changing builders to keep his deadly designs a secret. The result? A house of horrors that seemed like something out of a nightmare. The castle was a maze of confusion. There were staircases leading nowhere, rooms with no doors, and hallways designed to disorient. Hidden within its walls were trapdoors, soundproof chambers, and airtight rooms where gas valves allowed Holmes to asphyxiate his victims. The basement was a macabre workshop, outfitted with acid vats, lime pits, and a furnace capable of reducing bodies to ash. It wasn't just a building. It was a machine of death, built by a man who turned human suffering into profit. The World's Columbian Exposition brought millions to Chicago, and among them were young women seeking work, adventure, and a fresh start. Many of them found their way to Holmes's castle, drawn in by his promises of employment or a place to stay. But once inside, their fates were sealed. Holmes had mastered the art of manipulation. He charmed his victims, made them feel safe, then betrayed their trust in the most horrific ways. Some were suffocated in gas-filled chambers. Others were trapped in hidden rooms, left to starve. Their bodies were dragged through hidden chutes to the basement, where Holmes's gruesome process continued. But Holmes wasn't just a murderer. He was a businessman, stripping the flesh from his victims' bones. He sold their skeletons to medical schools, profiting even in death. It was cold, calculated, and utterly devoid of humanity. Holmes's crimes extended far beyond the walls of his murder castle. He was a master of lies and manipulation, weaving complex schemes that ensnared everyone around him. His most infamous plot involved his business partner, Benjamin Pitzel. Holmes convinced Pitzel to fake his death as part of an insurance scam. But instead of staging the scene, Holmes murdered Pitzel, leaving his widow and children at his mercy. In a chilling twist, Holmes traveled with the Pitzel children, moving from city to city while deceiving their grieving mother. Holmes's greed and audacity seemed limitless, but with every scam, he left behind clues that would eventually lead to his capture. In 1894, Holmes was arrested for insurance fraud, but as authorities investigated, they uncovered a story more horrifying than they could have imagined. Witnesses came forward, revealing tales of missing women and strange noises coming from the castle. When investigators entered the building, they were confronted with evidence of unspeakable crimes. Secret passageways, torture devices, and human remains told the story of Holmes's sadistic ingenuity. The castle wasn't just a crime scene. It was a monument to his monstrousness. Holmes eventually confessed to 27 murders, but experts believe the true number was much higher. Some estimate as many as 200 victims fell prey to his schemes. Each confession added another layer to the legend of H. Holmes. On May 7, 1896, Holmes faced justice. Standing on the gallows in Philadelphia, he remained eerily calm, showing no remorse for the lives he had taken. As the noose tightened around his neck, Holmes's final words sent a chill through those present. "I was born with the devil in me." And with that, the life of America's first serial killer came to an end. But his story was far from over. The murder castle was destroyed by fire shortly after Holmes's arrest, but its story continues to haunt Chicago. Today, the site is occupied by a U.S. post office, a mundane facade hiding a dark history. Holmes's crimes have inspired countless books, documentaries, and even theories connecting him to Jack the Ripper. While no evidence supports these claims, the legend of H. Holmes remains a chilling reminder of humanity's capacity for evil. Holmes was a man who exploited trust, ambition, and innocence, turning the dreams of others into his personal nightmare. His legacy is a warning that even the brightest cities can harbor the darkest shadows. Thank you for joining us as we unraveled the chilling tale of H. Holmes. If this story captivated you, please like, subscribe, and share. Together, we'll continue exploring the shadows of history, uncovering stories that are as haunting as they are fascinating. Until next time, stay curious and stay vigilant.